The arena stretched before them like a metallic maw, its walls gleaming with alien script that pulsed crimson in the artificial light. Zethrak, the merciless predator king of the Vorthak Empire, lounged on his obsidian throne, all four arms draped lazily over the armrests. His scales rippled with amusement as he gazed down at the latest batch of prey his hunters had delivered. "Humans," he rumbled, his voice echoing through the amphitheater where thousands of Vorthak spectators chittered with anticipation. Such pathetic creatures. No claws, no fangs, no armor plating. They die so easily it barely qualifies as sport. The crowd roared their approval. For 3 centuries, the Vorthak had hunted across the galaxy, capturing sentient species to feed their blood sport arenas. Humans had only recently been discovered, and they'd proven disappointingly fragile. Most lasted mere minutes against even the youngest Vorthak warriors. But today's offering was different. Instead of the usual terrified adults, the hunters had brought children. 12 human younglings stood in the center of the arena, their clothes torn and dirty from the journey. Most were crying, clinging to each other in terror, all except one. Maya Chen, 14 years old and barely 5 feet tall, stood apart from the group. Her dark eyes surveyed the arena with calculating precision, taking in every detail. The weapon racks along the walls, the drainage grates, the positioning of the guards. She'd been studying their captors during the entire journey to this place, learning their patterns, their weaknesses. "Behold," Zethrak announced, rising from his throne. His massive form cast a shadow across the arena floor. "Fresh prey for our amusement. Place your bets, honored spectators. How long will they survive?" The betting began immediately. Most wagers were under 30 seconds. Zethrak gestured to the weapon wall. "Choose your instruments of delay, little morsels. Though it matters not. You will all feed the sands before the twin suns set." The other children huddled together, too terrified to move. Maya walked calmly to the weapons, ignoring the jeers and taunts from the crowd. She passed over the obviously alien weapons and selected something simple, a curved blade that fit her grip and a small shield. "The tiny one thinks herself a warrior." Zethrak laughed, his voice booming across the arena. "How amusing. Very well, youngling. You may have the honor of facing me first before I dispatch your companions." Maya turned to face the Predator King as he descended into the arena. Up close, he was even more imposing. 8 feet of muscle and scales with razor-sharp claws that could slice through steel. His crown, wrought from the bones of 1,000 conquered species, caught the light as he moved. "Any last words, little human?" he sneered. Maya's response was barely audible over the crowd's bloodthirsty roars, but Zethrak heard it clearly. "Just one question. In all your centuries of conquest, have you ever faced an opponent who wasn't afraid of you?" The question caught him off guard. Fear was the foundation of his power. Every creature he'd faced had cowered before his might. "Impossible," he snarled. "All prey fears the predator." "No," Maya said quietly, adjusting her grip on the blade. "Not all," she moved. Not with the wild desperation of previous human fighters, but with surgical precision. While Zethrak was still processing her words, she'd closed the distance between them and struck. Not at his heavily armored torso, but at the thin membrane behind his knee joint. Zethrak roared in surprise more than pain, swiping at where she'd been. But Maya was already gone, circling to his blind spot. The crowd's cheers faltered as they watched the impossible, a human child making their champion look clumsy. "You fight like prey," Maya called out, dancing away from his claws. "All strength, no strategy. Is this what passes for a king among your people?" Rage clouded Zethrak's vision. He charged, all 4 arms slashing wildly. Maya dropped and rolled, coming up behind him to slice at his heel. This time the blade found the gap in his armor, and purple blood splattered the sand. The arena fell silent. For the first time in his reign, Zethrak the Merciless was bleeding in his own arena. The crowd's shocked silence stretched on as Maya continued her impossible dance, staying just out of reach while landing precise cuts on every vulnerable spot she could find. "Impossible!" Zethrak gasped, favoring his wounded leg. "How do you know our anatomy?" "I watched," Maya replied simply, dodging another swipe. "I learned. Your hunters spent weeks transporting us. Did they think we were just cargo? That we couldn't observe, adapt, plan?" She was right, and Zethrak knew it. In their arrogance, they'd never considered that their prey might be intelligent enough to study them. Humans weren't just physically weak, they were strategically brilliant. Maya pressed her advantage, using his wounded leg against him. Every time he tried to pivot, she was there, blade finding another gap in his armor. His crown, symbol of his dominion, began to slip as exhaustion set in. "This is impossible," he wheezed. "You're just prey." "No," Maya said, breathing hard but still moving. "I'm human, and humans don't give up." With a final, desperate lunge, Zethrak overextended himself. Maya sidestepped and brought her blade up, not to kill, but to knock the bone crown from his head. It clattered across the arena floor, pieces scattering like dice. Zethrak collapsed, defeated and humiliated before his entire empire. The silence in the arena was deafening. Maya stood over the fallen king, blade at his throat. But instead of delivering a killing blow, she spoke loud enough for every spectator to hear. "Your empire ends today. Not through conquest, but through understanding. Humans aren't prey, we're survivors, and we've been watching you, learning from you, preparing." She stepped back and addressed the crowd. "Release the children, release all your prisoners, because this is what happens when you underestimate humanity." In the stands, the Vorthak looked at their broken king and the small human girl who'd defeated him. For the first time in their species' history, they felt something they'd never experienced before. Respect for their prey. The Predator King had laughed at humans, but in the end it was a human girl who had the last laugh, and with it the freedom of her people.